Hi, I'm going to present the research entitled The Importance Given to Work, a Cross-Cultural Comparison Between Brazil and the United States. The authors are me, Athayde, from the Federal University of Minas Gerais, UFMG, Brazil, and Sonic Athayde from the same university. First, we have to reflect about the fact that work takes on different degrees of importance according to each individual or social group or culture. And it is also important to highlight that even though the importance given to work has been explored significantly in the literature, it has been poorly explored through a cross-cultural approach. That's one of the motivators of the present research. The main objective of this research was to analyze differences between Brazil and the United States in terms of the importance given to work by Brazilians and Americans, discussing such differences in light of the characteristics of the national culture of the two countries compared. So the fact that Brazil and the United States are considered culturally different in many cross-cultural research was one of the reasons why these two countries were chosen to be compared. Although the literal meaning of work assumes a neutral or impartial character, it can assume different degrees of importance according to the expectations, goals, values, needs of each individual, as well as it can vary in terms of culture, in terms of space and time. The theoretical background that we chose to analyze these differences in terms of cultural characteristics were the six cultural dimensions proposed by Hofstede, which are power distance, individualism, masculinity, uncertainty, avoidance, long-term orientation, and indulgence. Brazil scores high on power distance, as most Latin American countries, and the USA scores low. Uh, Countries that score high on power distance are countries who face inequalities and power asymmetries in society as something normal. Uh, Brazil scores low on individualism. Brazil is uh, considered a collective country, and the USA is considered the most individualistic uh, country in the world. When it comes to masculinity, Brazil scores intermediate and the USA scores high. So the USA is known as a society which values competitiveness, success, victories, merit. Concerning uncertainty avoidance, Brazil scores high and the USA scores intermediate. The societies that score high on uncertainty avoidance, they rely on rules, on institutions, on bureaucracy to prepare for the uncertain future. Regarding long-term orientation, Brazil scores intermediate and the USA scores low. And regarding indulgence, both Brazil and the USA score high. So both of these two countries, they they are comprised of individuals who search for gratifications, for pleasure, for immediate leisure. So these are the six cultural dimensions that were taken as a reference to characterize the Brazilian and the American cultures. So based on the theoretical background, we raised three hypotheses to be empirically tested. Hypothesis one, according to hypothesis one, Brazilians are expected to value work more than Americans, considering work as a possible symbol to communicate status and respect. This hypothesis was raised because of the high score of Brazil on power distance. As I said previously, uh, Brazil and Latin American countries that score high on power distance, they value symbols that communicate status, that communicate respect, that communicate power. So work would be a possible means, a possible symbol for Brazilians to communicate status, respect, and power. According to hypothesis two, Brazilians are expected to consider to a greater extent than Americans that work should come first, even if it means spare time. So even though the USA is largely considered a society comprised of workaholics, we raised this hypothesis based on the cultural dimension uncertainty avoidance and Brazil's high score on it. So we considered that work for Brazilians would be a way for them to prepare for the uncertain future or to feel more secure financially, for instance. And third, according to hypothesis three, Americans, to a greater extent than Brazilians, are expected to give importance to hard work as a quality to be taught to children and as a means of achieving success. And this hypothesis was raised because of the United States' high score on individualism and masculinity. So work would be a means for Americans to achieve success, to be competitive, and to think about themselves, which is something that is preached by individualism. Uh, the methodology first, uh, the sample of this research was comprised of 2,596 Americans and 1,762 Brazilians. Uh, we analyzed secondary data from the World Value Survey, Wave 7, which collected data from 2017 through 2020. And the main data analysis technique was mean comparison tests, student t-test. And the study variables that we chose to represent the the importance given by respondents to work were these five variables actually. First, Q5, importance given by respondents to work. Q9, importance given by respondents to encouraging hard work in children. Q41, which corresponds to respondents' agreement with the statement that work should always come first. Q43, respondents' agreement with the statement that in the future less importance will be given to work. And Q110, respondents' opinion on the main way to achieve success, hard work versus luck. So going straight to the results and discussion, here we have the sample characterization. Both the American and the Brazilian sample were comprised of a balanced number of men and women. The mean age was 42 years old, in Brazil and 46 years old in the USA. And here we have other characteristics concerning number of children, education level, and income level. So out of the 5 variables that we chose to represent the importance given by respondents to work, we identified statistically significant differences between Brazil for 4 of these variables. Just one variable did not present statistically significant differences between Brazil and the USA, which was respondents' agreement with the statement that in the future less importance will be given to work. The general results out of the 5 variables taken in the present study to measure the importance given to work, 4 of them showed statistically significant differences between Brazil and the USA, as I said. And out of these 4 variables, all of them confirmed the previously raised hypothesis. According to hypothesis 1, Brazilians were expected to value work more than Americans, considering work as a possible symbol to communicate status and respect, given its higher score in the cultural dimension power distance. This hypothesis has been confirmed in this study. Countries that score high on power distance, as most Latin American countries consider symbols of status and power as relevant to indicate social standing. So work may be a means for Brazilians to do that. According to hypothesis 2, Brazilians were expected to consider to a greater extent than Americans that work should always come first, even if it means less spare time. This hypothesis has been confirmed in this study. Countries with high score in the cultural dimension power distance, such as Brazil, deal less comfortably with an uncertain future. So work in this context, in the Brazilian context, may be a possible means through which financial and social security is reached. And according to hypothesis 3, it was expected that Americans, to a greater extent than Brazilians, would value hard work as a quality to be taught to children, given its higher score than Brazilians in the cultural dimensions, individualism and masculinity. And this hypothesis has been confirmed in this study. Countries with high score in these 2 dimensions, such as the United States, believe that success should be based on merit and that people should strive to be the best that they can be. So the limitations of the present study, this research is purely quantitative and could be complemented by future studies that investigate differences between Brazilians and Americans with a qualitative approach. And as final remarks, this research emphasizes the importance of studying work-related variables and their specificities between countries, in the sense that people management strategies be more contextualized, assertive, and compatible with cultural characteristics. Thank you very much for your attention. Here's my email address in case you would like to contact me, and you all are welcome to participate in the discussion of this research with questions and comments. Thank you.